Now we have Peter Haughey, is it? Haughey? I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. It's probably Haughey or... If you've got something to distribute, then staff can come down and do that for you. Can you help me out with the pronunciation of your surname? This is 1035 in your submissions. Thank you.
Firstly, I'd like to thank the Council for the opportunity to make the submission. I take it that there's no point in reading my submission because it would already have been read. Would that be correct?
Yes.
The notes that I have here, the estuary, East Bank, shoreline flood protection. There is a big omission. The estuary has protective stop banks along the west bank and south bank, but there's nothing along the east bank, which is really an omission. The council have put full stop banking and erosion protection along the full length of the west bank, mainly to protect council land and the oxidation ponds. There's also full erosion protection and correct levels along the south bank. So perhaps if I could just quickly read, the reference in my subdivision to existing stormwater works. These are the Dudley Creek Land Drainage Program, Knights Drain Stage 1, Linwood Canal and Cuthberts Road South, Bells Creek Mid-Heskett Bank Stabilisation and the Wigram East Retention Basin. All very good projects and I support them. The absence of estuary stop banks along low areas of South Brighton, south of Bridge Street and most of South Shore is a major omission by the City Council, which, as mentioned in my subdivision, will be fully aware of the previous surface flooding and the increasing risk of storm surge flooding from climate change, which is independent of ocean level rise. The rock wall and gabion protection along the South Brighton Domain frontage south of Beatty Street have not been repaired after earthquake damage, resulting in extensive erosion and loss of parts of the park and eventual loss of parts of the waterfront walkway. Low-level storm surge flooding of concrete slab foundation houses from the unprotected estuary East Bank would cause damage costing millions of dollars. The level of flooding I'm talking about would be something like a foot depth of water, which is quite feasible, and it could occur at any time now. For example, 100 houses with a conservative average value of $50,000. Well, even 6 inches of water across a concrete slab foundation necessitates removing of the jib board throughout the house to the first dwang, complete redecoration of the house, and also, most probably, complete new floor coverings. So that 50,000 is a very conservative estimate. The cost of the kilometres of stop banks and the associated erosion protection along both banks of the Avon River, that is from Bridge Street right up to Burwood, and along the west and south banks of the estuary has apparently not been a problem. These banks have all been in place for many years. Likewise, the cost of the estuary east bank stop banking and erosion protection should not be a problem, especially in view of the nearby properties paying rates for the provision and maintenance of the Waimakere River stop banks, which are mostly for the protection of Western Christchurch. So Environment Canterbury rates are levied on all the houses in Christchurch for the various risk categories, but a lot of the properties in South Brighton could be 60, 70 years old, so they've been paying rates for the establishment and maintenance of the Waimakere stop banks for a long time. The present risk of flooding due to the absence of East Bank estuary stop banks has little to do with ocean level rise. The Littleton tide gauge data from Google indicates only 165 millimetres rise in the last 18 years. They have these study periods of blocks of 19 years, and that period evidently is enough to accommodate all the various extremes and to give a genuine indication of ocean level rise.
Look, I'm sorry, but you've come to the end of the 5 minutes, so if you could just make the key points that you really want to get across.
Okay, well, perhaps the last paragraph.
Yep.
Is the City Council going to be reactive rather than proactive and wait for millions of dollars of property damage from low-level storm surge flooding, all for the sake of a 1 metre high stop bank and erosion protection along the South Brighton and South Shore frontages? That could also incorporate a walkway. And there's only 4 cubic metres of material per 1 metre run of bank with a 30 degree battery either side. So it's not an terribly expensive thing. And then the item 2, the location of the proposed hot salt water pools. My opinion is that there's another white elephant coming here if it's not located in the correct place. The proposed location on the exposed foreshore reserve north of the pier would not use any of the redundant vacant land in the New Brighton Mall, such as the vacant McCormick's Hotel site, which, as well as being sheltered, would have adjacent street parking in Beresford Street, unlike the exposed foreshore, where the closest parking would be the Countdown car park. So there's very little car parking anywhere near the proposed pool location.
Look, thank you very much for your time, and I'll just repeat something that I've said to a couple of the other submitters, that the issues confronting South Shore and South Brighton in terms of its location on the estuary and the relationship with the residential red zone, stop banks and all of those issues are being addressed, but in a collaborative way between Christchurch City Council and Regenerate Christchurch because of those connections, and will involve very close engagement with the communities, because this is not something that's going to be quickly resolved. It's a very dynamic environment. It is also a number of complexities relating to the relationship with the estuary, the desire within the Estuary Association to seek Ramsar status for the estuary. So there are a number of issues that all come together, and there are going to be many discussions about how we resolve those issues. But the City Council is not going to leave the community engagement process with the South Brighton community, because that was not red zoned, but Regenerate Christchurch has to be involved because of the connection with the rest of the river and the stop bank system and the estuary, which as a system has to be dealt with together. So it is going to be addressed, but it isn't just a simple matter of saying stop banks are the solution in every place. But there are temporary stop banks going in at the moment, and they will take over on the south side to provide that protection back from the estuary to those lower residences on Bridge Street through to the inner part of the estuary leading onto the river.
Thank you. There's just one sentence in reply to that. Reading it here. A program of estuary East Bank stop banking should not be delayed for any future study on predicted ocean level rise.
No, it's not. It's not being delayed for that purpose. It is the residential red zone requires the regeneration planning to be led by Regenerate Christchurch. All I'm saying to you is that we are working in collaboration with Regenerate Christchurch to make sure that South Shore, South Brighton and its connection to the river through the estuary is all respected and valued and considered in the context of what is a very dynamic environment.
Thank you.
Thank you.